Ethan had always dreamed of owning a home far away from the crowded cities of Earth. For years, he had saved every credit, worked overtime, and resisted every unnecessary expense. Now, after more than a decade, his dream was within reach. A small house on Viridia, one of the newest human colonies in the outer systems. The planet's sky was tinted with pale green, and two suns hung low in the horizon, bathing the rolling hills in golden light. The landscape was peaceful, untouched, and strangely inviting. The house appeared ordinary at first glance, but it carried a charm that made Ethan's heart race. It had large windows that reflected the alien sky, and strange carvings along the walls that suggested someone, or something, had cared deeply for its design. The price, surprisingly low, made him hesitate. "It almost feels too good to be true," he muttered to himself, running a hand over the smooth surface of the doorway. But excitement won over doubt. He handed over the credits, signed the necessary forms, and the house became his. The first few hours inside were a blur of boxes and planning. Ethan had chosen this house precisely because it offered solitude and a chance to live close to nature. He unpacked essentials, set up a small kitchen, and wandered through each room, imagining how he would spend his days here. Everything was quiet, serene, almost too quiet. Then, as he approached the largest room in the house, a soft voice stopped him. "You are home," it said. Ethan froze, his heart pounding. "Hello?" he called out. The voice repeated, this time closer, warmer. From the shadows of the far corner, a figure stepped forward. She was unlike anything he had ever seen. Her skin shimmered with a faint silvery glow, and her eyes were larger than human eyes, reflecting colors that seemed to move like liquid. Her hair floated slightly as if caught in a gentle breeze, and her movements were graceful, almost as though she glided rather than walked. I didn't expect anyone else here," Ethan stammered. "I came with the house," the woman said simply, her voice calm and musical. "I am Lyra, its guardian." Ethan blinked. "You came with the house?" He glanced around, half expecting someone to jump out and reveal this as a prank. But there was no one, just the two of them, and the house, which seemed to hum faintly, underfoot, as though acknowledging her words. "I don't understand," he said. "I bought this place. I thought it was empty." Lyra smiled softly. "It is empty in one sense, but the house is alive in a way. I am part of it. I watch over it. I guide it. And now, I watch over you as well." Ethan stepped back, trying to make sense of the situation. "Alive? You mean sentient?" "Yes," Lyra replied. She tilted her head as if studying him, curious but patient. "The house is older than humans. It was created to test, to nurture, to protect. It chooses its occupants carefully. You were chosen." Ethan shook his head. "Chosen by a house? That's impossible." Lyra raised a hand gently. "Humans are capable of much more than you often realize. The house senses this. It sensed you." Ethan sank into a chair, rubbing his face. He had spent his life among machines, codes, and calculations. Logic had always been his anchor. Yet, as he looked around, he could feel something unusual. The air felt charged, like it held secrets, waiting to be discovered. A faint glow seemed to pulse from the walls, and the soft hum beneath his feet was almost melodic. "Okay," he said finally, trying to steady his voice. "Let's say I believe you for a moment. Why me? Why would a house choose me?" Lyra's eyes shimmered with a subtle light. "Because you are curious, brave, and kind. You see possibilities where others see limits. You value life, yet respect it. The house responds to those qualities. That is why you were allowed to purchase it." Ethan stared at her, then glanced around the room again. Slowly, doubt began to mix with wonder. "So, I'm not imagining this?" "No," Lyra said. "You are not imagining. You are seeing the house as it truly is, and now, you are part of it. We must learn to live together." Ethan leaned back, letting the weight of her words sink in. A strange mixture of fear and excitement swirled inside him. For years, he had dreamed of a quiet, peaceful home, but he had never imagined that his home would come with an alien guardian and a sentient presence that defied every law of physics he had learned. Live together? He repeated. You mean, stay here? Forever? Lyra smiled, and in her eyes there was no hint of deceit. For as long as the house allows it, and for as long as you wish it. The house is patient, and so am I. Ethan stood slowly and walked to the nearest window. The twin suns were dipping behind the hills, casting long shadows that danced across the strange carvings. The house hummed softly again, almost like a contented sigh. He could feel a rhythm, a heartbeat beneath his feet. This is unbelievable, he whispered. It is, Lyra agreed. But not impossible. You humans often underestimate yourselves. This house has seen your potential. It has chosen to test it, gently, through you. Ethan turned back to her, a mixture of awe and apprehension on his face. So, you're saying I didn't just buy a house, I bought an adventure? Lyra's laugh was soft, musical, and completely unlike any human sound he had heard. Yes, an adventure. And perhaps, if you are ready, a chance to discover more than you ever imagined about yourself and the universe. Ethan swallowed hard, feeling his heart race. His entire life had been ordinary, predictable, safe. Yet standing there with Lyra in the glowing, breathing house, he realized that nothing would ever be ordinary again. The house seemed to shift slightly, as if acknowledging his thoughts. The air grew warmer, inviting. A faint shimmer ran along, the floorboards like tiny sparks of light dancing beneath the surface. Ethan took a deep breath. All right, he said finally, his voice firmer than he expected. Let's see what this house and you are all about. Lyra's eyes gleamed brighter. Good. That is the first step. For the first time in his life, Ethan felt the thrill of true discovery. And as the sun set over the rolling green hills of Viridia, he knew one thing for certain. Life inside this house would never be simple. The next morning, Ethan woke to the soft glow of the house. The walls seemed to shimmer faintly, reflecting the twin suns of Viridia outside. He rubbed his eyes and noticed Lyra standing quietly in the corner, observing him with her calm, thoughtful gaze. Good morning, she said softly. Her voice had a soothing quality, almost like music. Good. Morning, Ethan replied, still adjusting to the surreal reality of living with an alien. He had unpacked some essentials yesterday, but the house itself seemed to have a mind of its own. Some boxes had moved overnight, and one of his chairs now faced the window instead of the table. That's the house, Lyra explained. It likes to adjust things to suit its occupants. It noticed you prefer the chair facing the view. Small details matter. Ethan blinked. So, the house pays attention to me? Lyra nodded. It observes, it learns, and it adapts. That is why I am here, to guide it and guide you if needed. Ethan ran a hand through his hair. Guide me. I've spent my whole life being independent. I don't usually need guidance. Lyra tilted her head slightly, curious, but patient. Independence is admirable, but even the most capable humans benefit from guidance, especially in unfamiliar circumstances. This house is unfamiliar, even to you. Ethan sighed, realizing she was right. Every corner of the house seemed alive. The light in the hall subtly changed with his mood, and even the floor felt slightly responsive to his steps. There were no electronics as he knew them, yet everything functioned perfectly. Lights, temperature, even water flowed instantly when he turned the tap. All right, he said finally, I'll try to learn. But it feels strange to share a house with someone who is part of it. Lyra's lips curved into a gentle smile. Strange is the first step toward understanding. Give it time. Over the next few days, Ethan began exploring the house more deeply. He discovered rooms he hadn't noticed before. A small library filled with books in alien languages, a chamber that smelled faintly of flowers but contained no plants, and a kitchen that rearranged itself depending on what he planned to cook. Lyra accompanied him on every exploration. She explained how the house was designed by an ancient species to nurture and protect, testing humans' creativity, patience, and intelligence. It is not dangerous, she assured him, but it is not ordinary. You must learn to respect it. Ethan listened carefully, fascinated by her knowledge. He had studied engineering all his life, but nothing could have prepared him for a house that seemed alive. Some nights, he would sit by the window and watch the twin suns dip below the hills, while Lyra silently observed him. It was an odd companionship, but comforting in its own way. One afternoon, while unpacking more boxes, Ethan noticed a strange panel on the wall of the main living room. It was smooth, without buttons or handles. Curious, he pressed his hand against it. The panel glowed, and suddenly the wall slid aside, revealing a small chamber filled with shimmering artifacts. Lyra appeared beside him instantly. "You've found one of the hidden rooms. Few humans ever see this," she said. Her eyes shone with a mixture of pride and caution. Ethan's eyes widened. "What is all this?" he asked, reaching for a small glowing object. "These are remnants of the house's creators," Lyra explained. "They are tools, records, and memories. The house holds them, and it will share them with those it trusts." Ethan's mind raced. All his life he had worked with machines and technology, but this was different. These objects seemed alive, vibrating. Ethan had begun to feel comfortable in the house, but comfort did not mean he fully understood it. Every day brought new surprises. One morning, as he wandered through the library room, he noticed that some of the alien books had begun to glow, softly. Curious, he reached out and touched one. Instantly, images and symbols appeared in the air, floating like tiny stars. Lyra appeared beside him as if she had been waiting. "You have activated one of the memory artifacts," she said. "These objects hold knowledge left by the house's creators. They can teach you, but only if you are patient and respectful." Ethan stared at the floating images, fascinated. Scenes of alien worlds, strange machines, and glowing cities unfolded before his eyes. He realized these were not just pictures. They were experiences encoded in the objects by beings far more advanced than humans. "This is incredible," Ethan whispered. "How did they do this?" Lyra's eyes glimmered. Their technology combined art, knowledge, and life. The house itself is a vessel for their wisdom. It chooses who may see it. Ethan spent hours in the library, learning about the house's history. He discovered that it was not originally built for humans. It was a test, a sanctuary, a classroom. The house had been designed by an ancient alien civilization to nurture intelligence, creativity, and empathy. Those who proved themselves could unlock the house's full potential. One evening, while Ethan was experimenting with one of the artifacts, he noticed a hidden door in the back of the library. It had not been there before, or perhaps the house had only now revealed it. He looked at Lyra, who nodded slightly. "Shall we see where it leads?" she asked. Ethan hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Together they pushed open the door. Beyond it was a spiral staircase, descending into a chamber filled with soft light and a strange, pulsing energy. At the center of the room was a large crystal, glowing with shifting colors. "This is the heart of the house," Lyra explained. "It stores memories, knowledge, and energy from its creators. It is also the reason I exist." Ethan stepped closer, mesmerized by the crystal's glow. "You came from this?" Lyra smiled. "I am bound to it. The house gave me form, awareness, and purpose. I am its guardian, its teacher, and its companion, and now I am here to guide you." Ethan felt a mixture of awe and fear. The house was alive, yes, but its life was ancient, wise, and powerful. He realized that everything about it, the shifting walls, the glowing artifacts, the responsive rooms, was a small part of its consciousness. "Why me?" he asked again, more seriously this time. "Why would the house choose a human?" Lyra's eyes shone with light. Because humans are capable of growth, courage, and creativity beyond what they often believe. The house senses potential. It chooses those who can learn, adapt, and appreciate what it offers. You have qualities it finds rare. Ethan thought about his life on Earth, the long hours of work, the careful planning, the small moments of curiosity that had driven him to explore new ideas. It was ordinary, yet somehow the house recognized something extraordinary. For the next few days, Ethan and Lyra spent hours in the hidden chamber. He learned to communicate with the crystal through thought and emotion. Images, sounds, and knowledge flowed into his mind, teaching him about alien history, technology, and philosophy. He realized that the house was not just a home, it was a teacher, a protector, and a gateway to understanding life beyond human limits. But it was not all easy. Some lessons were challenging, requiring patience, problem-solving, and trust. The house tested him in subtle ways. Doors would shift unexpectedly, artifacts would present riddles, and rooms would change form if he acted impulsively. Ethan learned that rushing, fear, or frustration would block progress. Only careful observation and calm thinking allowed him to advance. Lyra was always there, guiding without interfering. The house respects those who respect it, she reminded him. It will not force knowledge upon you, but it will reward understanding and effort. One afternoon, Ethan discovered a small console embedded in the wall. He hesitated, unsure if he should touch it. The house pulsed softly, almost like it was waiting. Gently, he pressed the panel. A holographic map appeared, showing planets, stars, and strange energy patterns. "Wow," Ethan said. "It knows more about the galaxy than anyone I've ever met." Lyra nodded. "It does, and it can teach you to understand it. But knowledge without wisdom can be dangerous. That is why the house watches carefully." Ethan realized that living in this house was not just about comfort or curiosity. It was about growth. He felt himself changing, thinking more clearly, noticing subtle patterns, understanding emotions more deeply. And Lyra, calm and patient, was the perfect guide for this journey. One evening, as the twin suns set over Viridia, Ethan and Lyra sat together by the window. He felt a deep sense of connection, not only to the house but also to her. "Lyra," he said quietly, "I think I'm starting to understand. This house, it's more than a home. It's alive, it teaches, it tests, and it chooses who belongs. And I think it has chosen me." Lyra smiled, her eyes reflecting the soft glow of the crystal heart. "Yes, Ethan. And it has chosen wisely. But there is more to come. The house will continue to reveal its secrets, and you will continue to grow. You are part of it now, just as it is part of you." Ethan leaned back, watching the light shift across the hills. For the first time in his life, he felt that he was not just surviving. He was learning, discovering, and becoming something greater than he had imagined. And as the house pulsed gently around him, he understood that life here would never be ordinary again. Every corner, every artifact, every shimmer of light was a lesson. And with Lyra by his side, he was ready to learn them all. Ethan had grown more confident in the house over the past weeks. He had learned to move through its shifting rooms, communicate with the crystal heart, and understand Lyra's guidance. Life was strange but peaceful, and he had begun to feel at home. One morning, as he walked toward the main entrance, he noticed unusual tracks in the soft soil outside. They were not human. The patterns were precise, almost mechanical, like something with legs and sensors had walked through the yard. Ethan's heart raced. He glanced at Lyra, who was already observing the tracks carefully. "They are not friendly visitors," she said calmly. "This is the first test from the outside world." Ethan frowned. "Test? Why would anyone come here?" Lyra explained that some humans knew of the house's existence and its unusual abilities. Corporations and explorers were curious about its technology and alien artifacts. Many wanted to claim the house for themselves. The tracks Ethan saw were the beginning of such an intrusion. Before he could ask more, a low hum filled the air. The house seemed to respond instantly. Doors shifted to block entrances, lights dimmed, and the walls subtly rearranged to guide Ethan and Lyra away from vulnerable areas. "Is the house protecting us?" Ethan asked, awe in his voice. "Yes," Lyra replied. "It always protects its occupants, but you must learn to work with it. It will respond to your actions, thoughts, and intentions." Ethan nodded, realizing that this was his first real challenge. He had learned about the house, but now he had to defend it. And it would not be easy. The intruders arrived in the afternoon. Small drones, silent and fast, hovered near the perimeter. They scanned the yard with glowing lights, searching for signs of life or energy. Ethan and Lyra watched from a hidden window, formulating a plan. "Ethan," Lyra said softly, "remember what you've learned. The house reacts to intelligence and calm. Do not act out of fear or anger. Observe, think, and guide it." Ethan took a deep breath and nodded. He felt the house hum beneath his feet, as if acknowledging his decision. Slowly, he walked toward the main hall, where the drones had started to scan the walls. He focused his thoughts on the house, willing it to react without harming the intruders. To his amazement, the walls began to shift subtly, creating reflections and illusions that confused the drones. They hovered uncertainly, unable to locate the true entrances. The house pulsed gently, and Ethan felt a connection with its energy. He was learning to communicate with it in a way he had never imagined. Lyra guided him, pointing out patterns in the drone movements and helping him focus his attention. "You see, Ethan," she said, "the house can protect us, but it needs your guidance. Your understanding strengthens its power." Hours passed, and the intruders persisted. But Ethan and Lyra remained calm, using the house's abilities cleverly. Rooms shifted, hallways elongated, and lights created confusing shadows. The drones, frustrated and unable to penetrate the house's defenses, eventually retreated. Ethan exhaled deeply, feeling both relief and excitement. "We did it," he said, a wide grin spreading across his face. Lyra smiled. "Yes, together. You see now that humans are capable of great cleverness and courage. The house recognizes it, and so do I." The event left Ethan thoughtful. The house was powerful, yes, but it was also intelligent and responsive. It valued calm thinking, courage, and creativity over brute force, and he realized that this was exactly what made it compatible with humans. Over the next few days, Ethan and Lyra examined the tracks and debris left behind by the drones. They discovered that the intruders were part of a corporation that sought rare and advanced technology. The house's protections had worked well, but they knew that more attempts could come. "This house is more than a home," Ethan said one evening, looking at Lyra as days passed after the first encounter with the intruders. Ethan had learned to trust the house, and the house had learned to trust him. Every corner of the building now seemed to respond to his presence. Hallways shifted slightly to lead him where he needed to go, lights adjusted according to his mood, and even the air felt warmer and more comfortable in his favorite rooms. Lyra's calm presence made the strange home feel less alien, and the bond between them grew stronger. Ethan spent mornings exploring the house and afternoons working with the crystal heart. Each session brought new lessons. Sometimes the crystal displayed star maps showing distant galaxies and energy currents. Other times it presented complex puzzles in the form of glowing symbols that required creativity and logical thinking to solve. The house and Lyra guided him patiently, encouraging observation over hasty action. "Ethan," Lyra said one morning, "you are learning quickly, but knowledge alone is not enough. You must understand balance, patience, and harmony. The house values the mind, but it also values the heart." Ethan nodded. He had noticed that whenever he felt frustration or impatience, the house responded unpredictably. Walls shifted too quickly, lights flickered, or artifacts glowed erratically. Calmness, he realized, was the key to progress. One afternoon, Ethan discovered a room that neither he nor Lyra had explored before. The entrance had appeared subtly behind a mirror in the hallway. The room was circular, filled with soft, floating orbs of light. When Ethan touched one, it expanded into a miniature holographic environment. depicting a planet with swirling oceans and tall crystalline structures. These are simulations, Lyra explained. The house shows them to teach observation, strategy, and creativity. Each one represents a challenge, a scenario that tests human qualities. Ethan studied the simulation carefully. It was beautiful, but also complex. Small structures moved unpredictably, weather patterns changed rapidly, and energy flows shifted constantly. He realized that solving the scenario required patience, creativity, and careful planning. As he worked, Lyra observed silently, offering subtle guidance when needed. Slowly, he began to see patterns, understand the flow of energy, and predict changes. When he finally completed the simulation successfully, the room pulsed gently, almost as if the house itself were proud. "You are growing," Lyra said softly, "not just in skill, but in understanding. You're beginning to see the connections between thought, action, and consequence. That is the essence of harmony." Ethan smiled, feeling a sense of accomplishment. But he also realized something more important. Living in this house was not just about learning alien knowledge. It was about understanding himself, his strengths, and his limits. And Lyra was teaching him in a way that no human mentor could. As the days continued, Ethan and Lyra began to work together on larger projects. They discovered a section of the house that contained advanced alien tools. Some could manipulate energy, others could generate fields or change the environment. Ethan applied his engineering skills to understand the mechanisms, while Lyra interpreted the alien logic behind their design. Together they created solutions that neither could achieve alone. One evening, as they rested near the crystal heart, Ethan asked, "Lyra, do other humans ever get to experience this? The house, the artifacts, the challenges?" Lyra shook her head. "Few humans are ready. Most are not capable of understanding the balance the house requires. Those who rush, fear, or act selfishly are rejected. You were chosen because you can learn, adapt, and grow without harming others. The house trusts you, as do I." Ethan thought about that. He had spent much of his life feeling ordinary, believing he would never accomplish anything remarkable. But here in this living house with an alien guardian, he was discovering courage, creativity, and patience he never knew he possessed. "You know," he said quietly, "I think the house is teaching more than just knowledge. It's teaching wisdom, how to live, how to think, how to see things clearly." Lyra smiled. "Exactly. And that is why it values human qualities. Humans are resilient, curious, and adaptable. The house recognizes potential where others might not. That is why you were chosen." Over the next week, Ethan noticed that the house was becoming more responsive to his intentions. Rooms shifted in anticipation of his needs. Lights and air adjusted naturally, and artifacts activated at the right moment to provide guidance. He realized that he was forming a partnership with the house, not merely living in it. One day, while they worked together on a complex energy simulation, Lyra turned to him with a serious expression. "Ethan, the house may show you challenges that test more than intelligence. External threats may appear again. You must be ready to act in harmony with it. Fear or anger will hinder both of you." Ethan nodded. "I understand. But I feel stronger now. I know how to work with the house. And with you here, I think we can face anything." Lyra's eyes softened. "I am always here. But remember, your growth comes from within. The house will guide, but you must act with clarity and understanding. That is what makes humans remarkable." The bond between them grew in unexpected ways. Ethan began to see Lyra not only as a guide, but also as a companion and friend. Her calm intelligence, patience, and insight made every day more meaningful. And she, in turn, appreciated his courage, creativity, and determination. Together, they were more than human and alien. They were a team, learning from each other and growing together. By the end of the week, Ethan felt a sense of confidence he had never known. He could move through the house with ease, anticipate its shifts, and solve its challenges. But more importantly, he understood the essence of partnership: trust, patience, and mutual respect. Standing by the window one evening, watching the twin suns set over Viridia, Ethan reflected on his journey. "Lyra," he said quietly, "I feel like I've grown so much in just a few weeks. I never thought a house could teach me so much." Lyra smiled, her eyes reflecting the gentle glow of the crystal heart. "And there is still more to learn. The house is patient, but the universe is vast. Together we will continue to grow, and together we will face whatever challenges come next." Ethan felt a thrill of excitement mixed with peace. He had discovered not only a home but also a place of growth, learning, and understanding. And with Lyra and the house by his side, he felt ready to face the future, whatever it might hold. The days following their mutual growth were calm, but Ethan sensed that a larger challenge was approaching. The house seemed to hum with energy, as if preparing him. Lyra had noticed it too, standing quietly in the main hall, her eyes reflecting the pulsing light of the crystal heart. "Something is coming," she said softly. "The house has felt disturbances beyond this planet. The intruders may return, and they may bring others. We must be ready." Ethan nodded. He no longer felt fear. Instead, he felt clarity, understanding, and determination. He had learned the house's ways, practiced patience, and grown in ways he never thought possible. Now, it was time to face whatever challenge awaited. Late in the afternoon, distant shadows appeared on the hills surrounding the house. Vehicles unlike any human design moved silently toward the property. They carried more drones, faster and more advanced than the last group. Ethan's heart raced, but he kept his calm. The house pulsed beneath his feet as if inviting him to work in harmony with it. "Ethan," Lyra said, "remember what you have learned. The house responds to intelligence, creativity, and calmness. We will face them together." Ethan stepped forward, taking a deep breath. "I'm ready." The intruders reached the perimeter and activated scanning drones. This time they tried to enter the house directly, but Ethan anticipated the moves. He guided the house with calm thought and careful focus, signaling it to shift hallways and create illusions. Drones collided with walls that seemed to appear and disappear, and holographic images of the house's interior confused their sensors. Lyra worked silently alongside him, amplifying his intentions and guiding the house's energy. Together, they created a protective pattern that the intruders could not predict. It was no longer just the house acting on its own. It was a partnership. Human intelligence and alien wisdom combined. Hours passed, and the intruders grew frustrated. They had advanced technology, but they had underestimated the intelligence of the house and the human guiding it. Ethan observed, analyzed, and adapted, using what he had learned from the crystal heart, the simulations, and his time with Lyra. At one point, a drone managed to bypass a hallway and enter the main hall. Ethan acted quickly, signaling the house, to create a shifting barrier. The walls moved in harmony, trapping the drone in a safe containment field without damaging it. The house pulsed, approving his decision. Lyra's voice was calm but proud. "You are using both wisdom and restraint. That is what the house values. That is what humans are capable of." Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the intruders realized they could not succeed. Their drones retreated and their vehicles withdrew silently into the hills. The house relaxed, the pulsing energy softening as if sighing in relief. Ethan exhaled deeply, feeling a mixture of exhilaration and peace. He looked at Lyra. "We did it. Together." Lyra smiled, her eyes reflecting pride and warmth. "Yes, Ethan. Together. You have proven courage, intelligence, patience, and empathy. The house recognizes that you are worthy, more than worthy." The house GE